Stories are told, lessons remain. Welcome to the Talking Baobab, where truth is spoken and wisdom is shared. Pull up a seat, listen closely, because here the Baobab speaks.
Long, long ago, in the beautiful village of Nkoso, nestled between the Volta River and the great forest of Ghana, there lived a young woman named Amara. Her name meant grace in the old language, and truly, she carried herself with the elegance of a palm tree swaying in the harmattan wind. Now, the elders say, a single hand cannot tie a bundle. And so our story begins with Amara seeking to tie her life to another. In those days, Amara was a trader of fine Kent cloth in the village market. Every market day, she would spread her colorful wares under the big mango tree, and people from far and wide would come to admire her craftsmanship. Her fingers wove stories into every thread, stories of hope, stories of joy, stories of dreams yet to come. One bright morning, as the sun painted the sky orange like palm oil soup, a young man named Kwame arrived at the market. He was a farmer from a nearby village, known for his hard work and gentle spirit. When Kwame saw Amara arranging her cloth, he stopped in his tracks. The old women selling groundnuts noticed and began to whisper and giggle behind their hands. Oh! See how the young man's eyes have found something sweeter than honey, they said. Kwame approached Amara's stall with the nervousness of a grasshopper near a chicken coop. "Good morning, sister," he said, his voice shaking like a leaf in the wind. "Your cloth is as beautiful as the sunset over the river." Amara looked up and smiled. Her smile, my friends, could make even the grumpiest old man dance azonto. "Thank you, brother. But the sunset costs nothing to admire, while this cloth requires carries," she replied with a playful laugh. And so began their friendship. Week after week, Kwame would come to the market, sometimes buying cloth, sometimes just buying time to talk with Amara. The elders would say, "Patience can cook a stone." And indeed, with patience, Kwame's gentle persistence touched Amara's heart. After many months of visiting the market, Kwame finally gathered his courage and spoke to Amara's father, Papa Ose, a respected elder in the village. "Papa Ose," Kwame said, kneeling respectfully on a woven mat in the compound, "I have come to ask for your blessing. Your daughter Amara has captured my heart like a bird in a trap, and I wish to make her my wife." Papa Ose stroked his gray beard thoughtfully. "A wise man does not test the depth of the river with both feet," he said. "Tell me, young man, what do you know of my daughter?" "I know that she is kind, hardworking, and her laughter is like music," Kwame replied. "I know that she respects her elders and helps the children in the village. I know that when I am with her, the world feels complete." Papa Ose smiled. "You have watched well. But remember, marriage is like a groundnut, you have to crack it to see what is inside. Get to know my daughter deeply before you take this step." And so Kwame and Amara's courtship began properly. During this time, Amara was so focused on knowing Kwame, his dreams, his character, his heart, that she hardly noticed his family. Kwame had 3 sisters, Esi, Oma, and Akoshua. They lived in the next village with their mother. Kwame's mother had passed to join the ancestors when he was young, and his father had remarried. His sisters were from his father's new marriage, and while Kwame loved them, the relationship was complicated, like trying to untangle fishing nets. During the courtship, Amara met the sisters only twice, brief greetings at family gatherings where everyone smiled and said the right things. The lizard that jumped from the high Iroko tree to the ground said he would praise himself if no one else did. And indeed, the three sisters seemed to praise themselves plenty, barely asking Amara any questions about herself. But Amara was in love. Her eyes could only see Kwami's kindness, his hard work, his gentle ways. She did not see the storm clouds gathering on the horizon. When Kwami and Amara decided to marry, the whole village rejoiced. The talking drums announced it across the land, boom boom kaboom. Wedding preparations began with great excitement. 1 month before the wedding, Amara traveled to Kwami's village to help prepare for the ceremony. This was when she would truly meet his sisters for the first time in a meaningful way. Esi, the eldest sister, was standing by the cooking pot when Amara arrived. Instead of the warm greeting Amara expected, Esi barely looked up from her stirring. "Oh, you're here," Esi said flatly, like one would greet an unwanted rainy season. Amara, ever gracious, smiled widely. "Yes, sister. I've come to help with preparations and to get to know you all better. I brought some plantains and yams from our farm as a gift." Esi glanced at the basket and turned back to her pot. We have our own plantains." Amora's smile wavered but did not fall. "A single stick may smoke, but it will not burn," she thought to herself, remembering her grandmother's wisdom. Perhaps Esi was just having a bad day. But then came the next incident. Amara offered to help pound the fufu for dinner. As she raised the pestle, Oma, the middle sister, snatched it from her hands. "We don't need your help. You might not know how to pound it properly," Oma said with a voice sharp enough to cut okra. The compound fell silent. Even the chickens stopped their clucking. Amara felt tears prick her eyes but blinked them away. She excused herself and went to fetch water from the well, trying to understand what she had done wrong. At the well, she met an old woman, Mama Ajoa, who was known throughout the villages for her wisdom. "Why do you carry sadness in your eyes, young bride?" Mama Ajoa asked. Amara poured out her heart, explaining the coldness from Kwami's sisters. Mama Ajoa nodded slowly, her head wrap bobbing like a boat on water. "The ruin of a nation begins in the homes of its people," she said. "But remember this, my child, no matter how long the night, the day is sure to come. Give them time, give them kindness, and give them space. Some people fear change like a cat fears water." Amara thanked the old woman and returned to the compound, determined to try again. But things did not improve. One evening, as the family gathered to discuss wedding plans, Ekojua, the youngest sister, spoke up loudly for all to hear. "Brother Kwame, are you sure about this marriage? This woman knows nothing about our family ways." The words hung in the air like smoke. Kwame frowned. "Ekojua, that is disrespectful. Amara is to be my wife and your sister. But she's not our sister yet." Ekojua shot back. Amara felt her heart crack like a clay pot dropped on stone. She looked at Kwame, hoping he would say more, do more. He did speak to his sisters, yes, but his words were gentle, almost pleading. Please, let us all get along. We are family. But Amara knew the truth that many women know: a needle cannot sew with only one eye. Both partners must see the problem clearly to fix it. That night, lying on her sleeping mat in the guest room, Amara cried silent tears. She thought of her mother's words: a woman who marries a man marries his family. And she wondered if she could truly live with such coldness surrounding her marriage bed. The final blow came at the traditional introduction ceremony, just days before the wedding. As Amara knelt to greet Kwami's extended family, presenting the customary gift of cloth, drinks, and yam, Esi whispered loudly to Oma, loud enough for several people to hear. See her, she kneels. As if she's better than everyone. Too proud, that one. The insult was like pepper in fresh wounds. Amara had knelt with respect, as tradition demanded. She had done everything right, yet nothing was good enough. After the ceremony, as guests departed and night fell over the compound, Amara found Kwame alone under the stars. Kwame, she said, her voice trembling like morning dew on a spider's web, we need to talk about your sisters. Kwame sighed deeply. Amara, I know they have been difficult. But they will change after we marry. They just need time to adjust. And what about me? Amara asked. What about our marriage? How can we build a home when there are termites already eating at the foundation? Kwame took her hands. My dear Amara, please be patient. The one who plants trees, knowing that he will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. We are planting something beautiful together. Don't let my sister's thorns overshadow our garden. But Amara's grandmother used to say, when a needle falls into a deep well, many people will look into the well, but few will be ready to go down after it. She wondered if Kwame would truly be willing to go down into the deep well to retrieve their relationship when his sisters kept pushing it deeper. Despite her doubts, Amara married Kwame. The wedding was beautiful, drums drummed, dancers danced, and the whole village celebrated. Amara wore her finest Kent cloth, and Kwame stood tall and proud beside her. But even on that joyful day, shadows lingered. During the reception, when Amara tried to serve food to the sisters as custom required, Esi refused to eat, claiming she had already eaten. Oma accepted the food but placed it aside untouched. Only Akojua ate, but she complained loudly that the jollof rice was too spicy. The guests pretended not to notice, but Amara felt every slight like a thorn beneath her skin. That night, as tradition required, the newlyweds spent their first night at Kwame's family compound before moving to their own home. Amara could hear the sisters talking and laughing loudly in the next room, their voices carrying through the thin walls. She couldn't make out all the words, but she heard her name mentioned several times, followed by laughter that cut sharper than any knife. Kwame was already asleep, exhausted from the celebrations. Amara lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering what she had married into. The woman who accepts everything winds up with nothing, her grandmother used to say. But what could she do now? She was married. The first months of marriage were both beautiful and bitter, like bitter leaf soup, nourishing but hard to swallow. In their own home, away from his sisters, Kwame was everything Amara had hoped for. He was loving, attentive, and kind. He helped with household chores without being asked. He listened when she spoke. He made her laugh until her sides ached. A good husband is worth more than 1,000 cows, and Kwame was truly a good husband. But then came the family visits. Every other weekend, Kwame would insist they visit his sisters. "They are my family, Amara. Family is important," he would say. And Amara would go, carrying gifts of fruit, fresh bread, or cloth. She would smile and greet warmly. But the reception was always cold, like harmattan wind. ESI would criticize Amara's cooking. "This groundnut soup is too thin. Didn't your mother teach you how to cook properly?" Amma would make comments about Amara's appearance. "You've gained weight since the wedding. Marriage suits some women, I suppose." Akojua would simply ignore Amara, talking over her whenever she spoke, as if she were invisible. And Kwame. Sweet Kwame would try to smooth things over. "Oh, ESI is just particular about her food. Don't take it personally." Or, "Oma didn't mean it that way. You know how she jokes." Or, "Akojua is just shy around new people." But Amara knew better. When the mouse laughs at the cat, there is a hole nearby. The sisters weren't being difficult by accident, they had chosen their behavior deliberately. After each visit, Amara would return home feeling drained, as if someone had scooped out her insides like a calabash. She began to dread the weekends. One particularly painful visit happened during the harvest festival. The whole extended family gathered at the family compound for celebrations. Amara spent hours preparing her special palm nut soup, wanting to contribute meaningfully to the feast. When she arrived with her pot of soup, carefully balanced on her head, ESI looked at it and announced loudly to everyone present, "Oh, Amara brought soup. How brave. We already have plenty of food though. You didn't need to bother." The other family members shifted uncomfortably. Some looked at Amara with pity. Others pretended to be suddenly very interested in their own cooking. Amara felt her face burn with shame. She had spent her own money, woken up early, and cooked with love. And it was dismissed as bother. Kwame, who was helping his uncle repair a fence, didn't even witness the incident. When Amara told him later, he sighed and said, "I'm sure she didn't mean it that way." That night, lying in bed, Amara finally asked the question that had been growing in her heart like a seed, "Kwame, do you see what is happening? Do you truly see how your sisters treat me?" Kwame was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "They are just set in their ways. Give them more time." "It has been almost a year." Amara cried. "How much more time do they need? And what about my time? What about my peace? What about our marriage?" "You're being too sensitive," Kwame said, and those words landed like stones in still water. Amara turned away from him, tears sliding down her cheeks in the darkness. The heart of a woman is deep like the ocean, but even the ocean has limits, her grandmother used to say. And Amara felt herself approaching those limits. The breaking point came during the yam festival, one of the most important celebrations in the village. The entire community gathered to thank the gods for a good harvest, with dancing, drumming, and feasting that lasted 3 days. On the second day of the festival, Amara was sitting with a group of women, including Kwame's 3 sisters, under a large tree. The women were talking about marriages, children, and family matters, the kind of conversation that flows like palm wine at such gatherings. An older woman, Auntie Efua, turned to Amara and asked kindly, "So, Amara, when will we hear the sound of little feet in your compound? You have been married over a year now." Before Amara could answer, Esai laughed, a harsh, cutting laugh, and said, "Maybe she's too busy admiring herself in the mirror to make time for children." The other women gasped. Such disrespect. And from a sister-in-law to a sister-in-law. Amara's hands began to tremble. But before she could respond, Oma added with a smirk, "Or maybe my brother is beginning to see what he married and is having second thoughts." That did it. That broke the dam that Amara had been holding back for over a year. Amara stood up, her voice shaking but clear. "Enough. For over a year, I have endured your insults, your coldness, your cruelty. I have tried to be kind. I have tried to be patient. I have tried to be a good sister to you. But a goat says that if the tiger would not harm her, she would have eaten grass in peace. You have not let me be in peace since the day I met you." The compound fell silent. Even the children stopped playing. Even the goats stopped bleating. What have I done to deserve this treatment? Amara continued, tears now flowing freely down her face. I came into this family with an open heart, with respect, with love. But you have thrown it back in my face again and again. You insult my cooking, my appearance, my character. You treat me like I am not worthy to breathe the same air as you. Why? What is my crime? Is it that your brother loves me? Is it that I am happy? Is it that I exist? Yes, I opened her mouth to respond, but Amara held up her hand. No. I am not finished. When the cock is drunk, it forgets about the hawk. Well, I am no longer drunk on the hope that you will change. I see clearly now. You have decided that I am your enemy, and nothing I do will ever be good enough for you. Amara turned to leave, then turned back one more time. But I want you to know this, I am Kwame's wife, and that will not change because of your bitterness. I have tried to build a bridge between us, but you cannot force a rat into a hole. I am done trying. From this day forward, I will remain respectful because that is who I am, but I will no longer seek your approval or your love. I will focus on my husband, my marriage, and my own peace of mind. With that, Amara walked away from under the tree, her head held high despite the tears on her face. The women under the tree sat in stunned silence. Finally, Auntie Effa spoke, her voice heavy with disappointment. Esai, Oma, Akojua, shame on you. The one who throws stones into the marketplace may hit his own mother. That young woman has done nothing but try to love you, and you have repaid her kindness with cruelty. Your brother has found a good wife, and you are determined to chase her away. When did your heart become so hard? Kwame found Amara later that evening, sitting alone by the river, watching the water flow by. I heard what happened, he said quietly, sitting beside her. And? Amara asked, her voice empty of emotion. And? I am sorry. I have been blind. The eye that does not travel thinks mother cooks the best. I have been so comfortable in my family that I did not see how they were treating you. Amara turned to look at her husband. Do you truly see it now, Kwame? Really see it? Kwame nodded, tears in his own eyes. I spoke to my sisters after you left. I told them that their behavior is unacceptable. I told them that you are my wife, and disrespecting you is disrespecting me. I told them that if they cannot treat you with love and respect, then we will have to limit our interactions with them. And what did they say? Amara asked. Kwame looked down at his hands. Yes, I cried and said she didn't realize she was being hurtful. Oma made excuses. Okoja said nothing. But Amara, I meant what I said to them. Our marriage comes first. You come first. I have been a fool, thinking that if I just kept peace, everything would work out. But the one who brings ant-infested faggot into his house should not complain when lizards begin to visit him. I allowed their behavior into our marriage, and I am sorry. Amara felt something shift in her chest. This was what she had needed to hear, not just apologies, but acknowledgement. Not just promises, but action. Kwame, she said, taking his hand, I don't want you to cut off your sisters. They are your family. But we need boundaries. We need protection for our marriage. The lizard that jumped from the high tree and landed on its feet praised itself because nobody else would. We must protect our own happiness because no one else would do it for us. Kwame squeezed her hand. I understand. And I promise you, from this day forward, I will stand between you and any harm, even if that harm comes from my own family. After that day at the festival, things changed. Amara and Kwame stopped visiting his sisters every other weekend. They reduced it to once a month, and Kwame made it clear that any disrespect toward Amara would result in their immediate departure. The first time ESI made a snide comment about Amara's new dress, Kwame stood up immediately. That is enough, ESI. Apologize to my wife, or we are leaving. ESI, shocked that her brother was actually standing up to her, stammered, I was just joking. Apologize, Kwame repeated firmly. I'm sorry, ESI mumbled, though her eyes said otherwise. Over the next few months, the visits became less frequent. The sisters continued to be cold, though they were more careful with outright insults. But the damage was deep, like roots of a tree that had grown twisted and wrong. One evening, after a particularly tense visit, Amara said to Kwame, I think we need to take a break from visiting your sisters for a while. For the sake of our marriage, for the sake of my mental health, I need space from their negativity. Kwame looked troubled. But they are my family. And I am your wife, Amara said gently but firmly. The one who loves you will also correct you. I am telling you now, with love, our marriage is suffering because we keep exposing ourselves to poison. We need time to heal. It was a hard decision, but Kwame agreed. They decided to stop visits entirely for a season, 3 months, to focus on strengthening their own relationship and finding peace. Those 3 months were like rain after a long drought. Amara and Kwame laughed again, truly laughed. They talked late into the night about their dreams, their hopes, their plans for the future. They remembered why they fell in love in the first place. When the music changes, so does the dance, the elders say. And indeed, when the sisters' negative music stopped playing in their lives, Amara and Kwame found new steps to dance together. During this time away from his sisters, Kwame began to see even more clearly how their behavior had affected his wife. He noticed how Amara smiled more freely now. How she sang while cooking. How she no longer tensed up every weekend, dreading the upcoming visit. He also began to notice things about his sisters that he had been blind to before. Visiting his father one day alone, he heard Esai and Oma talking in the courtyard, not knowing he was within earshot. "I don't understand why Kwame is acting so strange lately," Esai was saying. "Ever since he married that woman, he has changed." "She has bewitched him," Oma replied. "Our brother used to visit us all the time. Now we barely see him." "Maybe she will leave him soon," Akojua added hopefully. "Then things can go back to normal." Kwame felt as if cold water had been poured on him. They weren't just being difficult with Amara, they actually wanted his marriage to fail. They wanted to drive his wife away so they could have him back to themselves. The truth is like the sun, you can shut it out for a time, but it ain't going away, as the old wisdom says. And Kwame could no longer shut out the truth about his sister's intentions. That evening, he returned home and told Amara what he had heard. She was quiet for a long moment, then said, "I suspected as much. But what matters now is what we do about it." They decided together that when the 3 months were over, they would attempt reconciliation, but with very clear boundaries. If the sisters could not respect Amara and their marriage, then the relationship would remain distant. After 3 months, Kwame sent word to his sisters that he wanted to meet with them. They gathered at his father's compound, neutral ground, with several elders present, including Mama Ajua, the wise woman from the well. Kwame spoke first, his voice calm but firm. "My sisters, I love you. You are my blood. But my wife is my chosen family, and she must be respected. For too long, I have allowed you to treat her poorly, thinking that time would heal things. But time does not heal all wounds, some wounds need medicine. Today, we are here to apply that medicine." He went on to describe specific incidents of disrespect, things he had witnessed and things Amara had told him about. With each example, the sisters' faces grew more uncomfortable. Mama Ajua then spoke, her voice carrying the weight of years. "Young women, listen to me. The woman who wants to grow must allow her seedling space to develop. You are holding too tightly to your brother, trying to keep him as he was before marriage. But the river that refuses to bend will break against the rocks. Your brother has chosen a wife. You can either accept her and gain a sister, or you can reject her and lose your brother. The choice is yours." The compound was silent except for the chirping of evening crickets. Finally, Esai spoke, and to everyone's surprise, Her voice was thick with tears. I didn't see it that way. When our mother died, Kwame was all we had. Our stepmother was kind, but she wasn't our real mother. Kwame took care of us, protected us. And then Amara came, and I felt like we were losing him. Amma nodded, wiping her own eyes. We were wrong. We were so wrong. But we didn't know how to, we didn't want to share our brother. Akojua, the youngest, finally spoke up. I was just following my older sisters. But now I see, we have been cruel. We have been wicked. And for that, I am truly sorry. All three sisters turned to Amara, who had been sitting quietly beside Kwame. Yes, I spoke first. Sister Amara, we ask for your forgiveness. We have treated you badly from the beginning, and you did not deserve it. We were afraid of losing our brother, but in our fear, we almost pushed him away for good. Amara looked at each sister in turn. Her heart was still wounded, like a cut that hadn't fully healed. But she also saw something new in their eyes, genuine remorse. Forgiveness is not forgetting, she said finally. It is remembering without anger. I cannot forget what has happened between us. Those wounds are real, and they have been deep. But I can choose to let go of the anger. I can choose to give us a fresh start, if you are truly willing to try. We are, the sisters said in unison. Then we begin again, Amara said. But this time, we begin with honesty, with respect, and with clear understanding. I am Kwame's wife, and that will not change. You are his sisters, and that will not change. But we must all learn to make room for each other in his life and heart. Can we do that? The sisters nodded, and for the first time since Amara had met them, there was genuine warmth in their expressions. Now, my dear listeners, I must tell you that this reconciliation did not mean everything became perfect overnight. No, no, no. Rome was not built in a day, as they say, and neither is trust rebuilt in a single conversation. The first few visits after the reconciliation were awkward. Like new shoes that haven't yet molded to your feet. Everyone was too polite, too careful, walking on eggshells and watching every word. But slowly, like the sun rising over the hills, things began to warm. It started small. Amma complimented Amara's new hairstyle, genuinely, without a hint of mockery. Akojua asked Amara to teach her how to make her famous palm nut soup. Esa invited Amara to come early before Kwame for a sisters-only afternoon of weaving and talking. During that afternoon, as they sat weaving baskets together, Esa said quietly, I want you to know, Amara. I see now what a good wife you are to my brother. He is happy, truly happy, in a way I have never seen before. And I am grateful for that. Amara's hands paused in their weaving. Thank you for saying that. It means more than you know. We wasted so much time being bitter, Amma added, shaking her head. All because we were afraid. Fear can make us do foolish things, Amara agreed. The one who is afraid of the wind will not become a sailor. But you have faced your fear and sailed through it. That takes courage. The sisters smiled at each other, a real smile, warm and genuine, like the sun breaking through clouds after a storm. 2 years later, Amara gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. They named her Amara, after Kwame's middle sister, as a gesture of reconciliation and hope. The 3 sisters came to visit, bringing gifts and blessings. They cooed over the baby and helped Amara with the household tasks during her recovery, the way sisters should. One evening, as they all sat together in Amara's compound, watching the sun set and the baby sleep peacefully in her mother's arms, ESI said, "Amara, there is something I want to say to you." Everyone looked up. "When you first came into our family, we treated you terribly. We were jealous, we were afraid, we were selfish. We almost destroyed our brother's marriage and our own chance at having a wonderful sister. If you had given up on us, if you and Kwame had walked away completely, we would have deserved it. But you didn't give up. Even when you set boundaries, even when you created distance, you left the door open for reconciliation. That takes a strength I didn't have. Thank you for being stronger than we were." Amara felt tears prick her eyes, but these were good tears, healing tears. "The tree that bends in the wind does not break," she said softly. "We all had to bend a little. Kwame bent toward protecting our marriage. I bent toward forgiveness. And you 3 bent toward acceptance. That's how families survive the storms, by bending together." Baby Oma stirred in her sleep and smiled, as if she understood the wisdom being shared above her. And so, my dear listeners and viewers, we've come to the end of our tale. But before I release you back to your own lives, let me share the lesson that Mama Ajoa, the wise woman, would later tell to the young people of the village. First lesson: a good marriage is like a compound. It needs strong walls to protect what is inside. Amara and Kwame learned to build walls around their marriage, protecting it from negativity, even when that negativity came from family. This does not mean cutting off family, but it means knowing when to create healthy distance. Second lesson: the crocodile does not catch the monkey by fighting in the trees. Sometimes, you must choose your battles wisely. Amara tried many times to win over the sisters through kindness alone, but it wasn't until she stood firm in her dignity that real change began. Third lesson: when the fool is told a proverb, its meaning has to be explained to him. But Kwame was no fool. Once he truly saw the problem clearly, he acted. A good partner will stand with you when they understand. But sometimes, you must help them understand by speaking your truth clearly and firmly. Fourth lesson: a coral is like buttermilk. Once it's out of the churn, the more you shake it, the more sour it grows. Amara and Kwame learned that sometimes, you need to stop shaking the conflict and let things settle. Their 3-month separation allowed healing that constant engagement never could. Fifth lesson: the enemy of my husband is my enemy, but when the enemy is his family, wisdom must lead the way. Amara never forced Kwame to choose between her and his sisters. Instead, she asked for respect, boundaries, and protection. This wisdom saved their marriage. Sixth lesson: forgiveness is a gift you give yourself. When Amara forgave the sisters, she wasn't saying what they did was okay. She was releasing herself from the prison of bitterness. She was choosing peace over pain. Final lesson: no matter how long the night, dawn will break. If you are in a difficult situation with in-laws or family, know that change is possible. It may take time, it may take firm boundaries, it may take difficult conversations, but healing is possible when all parties are willing to try. Now, in that village of Nkoso, they still tell the story of Amara and the three sisters. They tell it to young brides who are struggling with their in-laws. They tell it to young husbands who must learn to protect their marriages. They tell it to families who are learning to make room for new members. And when the wind blows through the village at night, carrying the scent of cooking fires and the sound of drumming, people say you can hear the laughter of Amara and her sisters-in-law, finally at peace, finally family. When the elephants fight, it is the grass that suffers, the old proverb says. But when the elephants learn to dance together, oh, my friends, that is when the whole forest rejoices. And so our story ends, but the wisdom continues. May you carry these lessons in your heart like precious gold dust. May you build strong walls around your marriages. May you speak your truth with courage. May you forgive when the time is right. And may you always remember, a family is like a forest. When you are outside, it is dense. When you are inside, you see that each tree has its place. This is the tale of Amara and the three sisters. I have told it as it was told to me, and now I pass it to you. Yen era yen, we are all in this together. May the ancestors bless you, and may your own family stories end with healing and joy.
The story has been told. The lesson is yours to carry. If this story touched you, please like, share, and subscribe for more African folktales and wisdom-filled stories.